Hey, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Ethocast. I am Eddie Francis. How are you? How's mom? How's dad? How you people? All that good stuff. Ethocast, by the way, is brought to you by Edify Ventures. Show them who you are. Ask me today about public speaking coaching because public speaking can be a great indication of your personal brand, and also, it can be your literal leadership voice. Email me, Eddie at eddiefrancis.com today to ask me about public speaking coaching. So, when I was really getting to know that wife of mine, my wife and I, when we were dating, she one day somehow philanthropy came up in a conversation. Is because she actually Halima did research philanthropy as part of her doctoral dissertation, and so in talking about that, she just kind of out and asked me about my giving and what kind of philanthropist I saw myself as, and I'm going, I'm not a philanthropist. I don't have any money. And she asked me, well, have you ever volunteered for anything? Have you ever given anything? And I said, well, sure, I have. And she said, well, you can call yourself a philanthropist because philanthropy is not necessarily synonymous with money. I wasn't buying it, but you know what? She was the one with the PhD. I wasn't. So, hey, there's that. And after talking to her for a little bit, I started to really get into this idea of not necessarily centering philanthropy on giving money, but finding a way to use giving to create dreams, to create a better society, to make myself even a better person. And I want to talk to you about that because in fraternity and sorority life, philanthropy is pretty much built into any and everything that we do. But here's what I want to do. I want to take this step by step. So the first thing I want to do is I want to talk about philanthropy in a way that you probably have never heard anyone talk about it. The second thing I'm going to do is make that connection between philanthropy and leadership, so that you can both become a more effective leader and you can become a more effective philanthropist. Believe me, it could really happen. So let's start with philanthropy. What exactly is it? So if you check out the definition, Merriam-Webster, you're going to see that is going to say goodwill to fellow members of the human race. When you look at the word philanthropy in its root, it comes from the Greek philanthropos, which means loving people. So at its core, we already hear that philanthropy is not about just money. As a matter of fact, the very root of philanthropy is about doing something for the betterment of humanity, the betterment of other people. Our fraternities and sororities, regardless of the council, a lot of our fraternities and sororities have national programs, national philanthropies. We have partnerships with national nonprofits. We have causes that we have joined as organizations. But even the fraternities and sororities that don't have national programs, um, there are fraternities and sororities whose chapters have local commitments that they have made in their local communities. Now, there are those fraternity and sorority chapters that don't have national programs, that have not made a local commitment. They have not created a relationship, a multi-year relationship with anyone. And I especially want you to listen if you happen to be a member of that kind of fraternity or sorority. So let's start our journey here with philanthropy. Let me ask you a question. What societal problems do you care the most about solving? Another question. What is the goodwill that you dream of seeing in the world? If you're in a fraternity or sorority that has national partnerships, or you support national nonprofits or causes, here's your question. Where do you see the connection between your love of humankind and the causes, the nonprofits, the partnerships that your fraternity or sorority supports? For me, it was a very interesting it was a very interesting epiphany that I had, and mine came with the March of Dimes. As you know, I'm a member of Alpha Phi Alpha, and we have a partnership with the March of Dimes. We participate in the March for Babies. Years and years ago, when we were doing this whole thing, I would just do what I needed to do. I would do whatever the chapter needed. Go out, raise whatever money needed to be raised. And then something interesting happened. I became a father. And in becoming a father, there was a point where mom, the situation was kind of touch and go with the kid. Stephen, born, doing great. He is almost 22 years old. He's in college. So he is doing great. But that touch and go time was when I was really nervous. And so it made me look at the March for Babies differently. Because then I started thinking at some point, what about the families that, what about the families that haven't gotten to experience what I'm experiencing as a father? What about them? I started wondering what was preventable. I started taking more of an interest whenever we did our programming, whenever we, did Project Alpha and all. I took more of an interest in those things. And that's where I found connection with that particular cause. And so when I started to go out and I did my part for March for Babies, I had a story to tell. And the story that I would tell the people to whom I would make my fundraising appeal was, I have the opportunity to enjoy life with this wonderful kid of mine. There are other people who are not going to get that opportunity. And we're raising money for research so that we can make sure that families stay whole, to make sure that moms have healthy pregnancies, to make sure that families get to enjoy their children and the lives with their children, like a lot of us get to enjoy ours. In that moment, when I made that appeal, I had that story to tell. I had a real reason to go to people. I had something compelling to talk to them about. But even more than that, I had something relatable. It was real. It became much more authentic than it was before. And it did make a difference. And not only that, I was able to communicate to the other brothers in my chapter, listen, this is how I've approached this thing. Here are some suggestions. I started to lead the effort a little bit. And I actually did become someone in the chapter when I really got into March for Babies. I actually became someone who was more of a voice when it came to it. And so when you think about the relationship that you have with your national programs, or you think about the relationship that you, your frat brothers and your sorority sisters have with your local community, and you see something all that you want to you want to approach this issue or this cause, or you want to support this nonprofit, You now have that part, that point of connection that can really help you articulate the importance of what it is that you're doing, the importance of that support. So there we go. Part one. Part one. We have an idea of philanthropy. We have an idea of what it means. Because the thing is that when philanthropists are giving, they're not just throwing money at a problem. Not all of them. There's some who might be doing it, but they all have a story to tell about why it is. Why do they donate this money? The best example I can think of right now is there's Mackenzie Scott, who has given millions of dollars to historically Black colleges and universities. And people have been asking, why is it that this white woman who is the ex of Jeff Bezos, why is she giving all of this money to historically Black colleges? And one day I knew the answer because I looked into it when she made a $5 million gift to Dillard University, where I was working as the director of communications and marketing. So I knew that I've known this story for 5 years. But a big part of the story is the respect that she has for the story of Black folks. And a big part of that connection is the author, Toni Morrison. And the story goes deeper than that. So she became this social justice minded person. And a lot of her social justice, a lot of her giving has to do with wanting to make sure that nonprofits, historically Black colleges and universities have an equitable, they have an equitable foundation so that they can do the work that they need to do. Now, there's something that's very important to understand about this. Mackenzie Scott, I don't think, is trying to rescue anyone. What she's doing is she's investing in the promise. She's investing in the promise to educate people, to, once again, create social equity. She's investing in a direction. That is philanthropy. It is beyond her love of humankind. It is also her investment. And you're going to see this with a lot of other folks. Robert F. Smith, 2019, he paid off the debt of the class of 2019 in Morehouse College. If you listen to his commencement speech leading up to the announcement of the gift, what he did is he talked about his past, what education had done for him, and he talked about what happened when he had an opportunity, because that opportunity was set up by someone else, when someone paid it forward to him. And so what he told that class, because I've watched this commencement speech 3 times, what he told that class is, just like someone gave me a foundation and an opportunity, they paid it forward to me, I'm going to pay it forward to you. I'm going to give you a foundation, and I'm going to get you out of debt right now, at least with your school. So let's put a pin in that. Let's think about that very, very quickly, about not just giving to give, but giving with purpose. Having a dream, going back to that question that I asked a little while ago. What societal problems do you care most about solving? What is the goodwill that you dream of seeing in this world? And I'm going to add another question based on what I just told you. What investment do you want to make in a better world? So this is where you start to lead. Now, let's just set a baseline here. At its core, there are 3 elements that we take a look at when we look at leadership. Leadership studies tells us that the 3 elements that really make a difference and really help define leadership will be, number 1, the process in which someone or a group of people are influencing others. The second part is that you have the leaders and the followers who have an awareness of their relationship with one another. The third part is that there is an effort to achieve some kind of objective through change. So when I think about how I started to become more of a voice when it came to March for Babies in the alumni chapter that I was a member of at the time, this all makes sense because I wanted to influence my brothers to really see the commitment we needed to make to March for Babies. But then I was also very aware of the fact that if I was going to make this happen, then I had to have relationships with the brothers throughout the chapter. I had to be someone that they were willing to listen to, someone that they were willing to make the investment with, someone they were willing to jump in there with. But then there was an objective. I did create fundraising goals. I made it very small at first. I said, hey, brothers, let's just raise $2,000. And so that was the objective that happened with that. So the great thing about fraternity and sorority life is that we have missions, we have values, we have aims, and these serve as launching pads for us to lead in the first place. By the way, you are listening to Ethocast. I'm Eddie Francis. I am your host. And we are talking about not just doing philanthropy, but building leadership skills through philanthropy and how you can make that happen with your chapter. By the way, I do a whole presentation for this. It's called Give Till It's Built. Give Till It's Built. You can check out my website, eddiefrancis.com, to learn more about Give Till It's Built and bringing it to your campus. So when you take a look at what happens with these leadership skills, here are 3 things that you can do to lead your chapter and to become more effective in your philanthropy. Number 1, communicate. Number 2, collaborate. Number 3, moderate. Communicate. Tell people what the dream is. Tell them. Paint the picture. Let them know why they need to be a part of it. Sell this thing to them. And then ask for their help. That seems to be the part that a lot of us leave out of this whole thing, especially in fraternity and sorority land. We have this perfectionism thing that is just, we do the most with it. But you don't have to. We're frat brothers, sorority sisters. We're supposed to work with one another. So the first step you take in building your leadership skills through philanthropy is to communicate the dream, communicate the goals, and then collaborate. Build a team to help you. I will tell you that one of the frustrating things at first when I started this whole thing with March for Babies is I did feel that I was kind of alone. Even though I did communicate with the brothers, they kind of sort of maybe kind of bought in, and it's like, okay, well, it's a national program, we need to do it. So I had to build a team of people I knew they would lead the effort, especially when I saw this one brother who's doing a really good job of raising money. I said, okay, cool. I really, really, really need to get with him because he's going to raise the most money. And so I started to figure out what that collaboration would look like. So within your chapter, build that core team that's going to help you start achieving the dream. And then the third part, moderate. Okay, check this out. This is gonna, it's gonna take a minute. Try to make it as easy as possible for people to join the philanthropic efforts. And what I'm talking about is, yes, you want to do it within your chapter, but then when your chapter starts to make the appeal externally, if you're a college chapter, you start to make that appeal externally on your campus to people, right? You have to moderate this process. Let them know how easy it is to give. Make it easy to give, first of all, make it easy to give. But then let them know. Communicate to them how easy it is to give. It's the click of a button. We're going to send you a text. Just hit the link and give, right? Let them know it's only going to take them a couple of minutes. Or if you have something like, you know, you know, uh, pi a chi omega, pi and omega, pi a sig ep, or if you have pi a kappa or something like that, if you have one of these types of events that you're going to do, make it fun. That's part of the moderation as well. One of the things that March for Babies does that is so great, and by the way, March for Babies isn't paying for any of this, so do support. But one of the things that March for Babies does that is really good, over the years, they've made it a competition. So, as you have heard, maybe on this podcast, my wife is a Zeta. And so Zeta Phi Beta does March for Babies. Alpha Phi Alpha does March for Babies. Sigma Gamma Rho. I can't remember who else does March for Babies. But just between us and the Zetas, there's this thing where we have created, a lot of the chapters have created some really healthy competition with one another. Well, March for Babies moderated that. Right, you have the leaderboards that you can go check out. You have your dashboard. You go check it out. I was like, wait a minute, who has been given more than our chapter is not right. So those are three things you can do to really start building the leadership skills, to really start improving your leadership. You communicate with folks, you collaborate with folks, and you moderate the process of giving to make sure that people are doing it. Now, the thing is that the ultimate thing that you want to be able to accomplish in your leadership is you have some mechanics of this process. And I talk about these mechanics in detail with Give Till It's Built. But the first thing is identifying the resources, right? Again, it's not just about money. Time is an important resource. Knowledge is an important resource. Talent is an important resource. So identify the resources that will boost your giving. And then create sustainable solutions. Now, if you have a national partnership, or if you have a national nonprofit that your fraternity or sorority supports, then that sustainable solution piece, that is all done at the top. It filters down into the chapters, but the chapters are responsible for helping to make sure that that partnership or that support is sustainable. And also, they've already looked into what the sustainable solution is. So March of Dimes has already looked into this. They already know what needs to be done in order to make sure that there are healthy births. And they know what the sustainable solution is. They just ask the rest of us to come in and join them. But what about if you are one of these chapters that doesn't have a national program? Your fraternity or sorority doesn't have a national program. And so you are at a point where you have to figure out what a sustainable solution looks like. So what do you do? So don't do just the immediate thing, the immediate event or whatever that you do this semester or next semester. Okay. Figure out how there's going to be some succession, especially if you have had a great effort and a nonprofit that you supported is really happy with you. How do you hand that off to the next set of chapter officers coming in? But then also, how do you hand it off so that it is a much more significant effort within your community? And then the third thing, this kind of speaks for itself, is to analyze the results. So when we take a look at philanthropy, we know that we are not just giving money. Philanthropy is much, much more than that. Philanthropy is all about doing goodwill, making sure that you build something for the betterment of your community, the betterment of your campus, making sure that you put a dream out there. And then also making sure that you try to create something that is meaningful to you, meaningful to your fraternity brothers, meaningful to your sorority sisters. But in doing that, you have got to lead the effort. And you lead the effort by realizing that number one, you have to be able to have some influence with people. You have to have a relationship between the leaders and the followers in the effort. And there's a goal. There is some sort of goal that you have got to meet to make it all happen. If you have any questions about this, and again, if you want to learn more information about Give Till It's Built, email me, Eddie@eddiefrancis.com. Eddie@eddiefrancis.com. I also wrote about philanthropy in the book From Letters to Leaders. That is a book that I did with my good friend, Mike Ayalon from Greek University. Of course, I am a speaker with Greek University, so I got to give him props. And that book is From Letters to Leaders, Perseverance and How to Be a Great Fraternity or Sorority Alumnus. You want to find out more about that book, then make sure you go to GreekUniversity.org. I have a page there. So that's GreekUniversity.org. My page is GreekUniversity.org/Eddie. All right. It has been real. It has been cool. Thank you, especially if you stuck with me through this thing. You have a good one, and I'm going to see you next time.